What a week. For the first time in who knows how long, Israelis are living their lives without fear of bombs raining down. Everywhere, Israelis are being told it's finally time to relax. We did it! But how can we adapt to the quiet when our prime minister is saying he's shocked that a ceasefire means he can't launch strikes? And across the sea, Iran is showing footage of all its brand new missile launchers, which it's supposedly building back even better than before. And what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz? Headlines that contradict each other, officials who can't agree on what they just said, and a social media feed that somehow makes everything clearer and more confusing at the same time. This week, we're going to look at the biggest stories and ask the one question nobody wants to answer. What's actually happening? Let's get into it. I'm Shir Perets, and this is Scratching the Surface. Iran said the Strait of Hormuz is open. Then, Iran said it isn't. Both of those things happened within 48 hours. Here's why. You might have seen the headline, Iran's foreign minister announced the Strait of Hormuz was fully open to commercial shipping. Markets jumped. There was cautious optimism. And then, almost immediately, Iran's own state-linked media came out and called the foreign minister's statement, quote, bad and incomplete. That's the IRGC's mouthpiece publicly dragging their foreign minister. In public. On X. Well, as of right now, the answer is neither, really. Some ships had moved through on April 16th and 17th, but as of this past weekend, British Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper said the strait has not returned to normal, and the head of U.S. CENTCOM said shipping traffic has not been restored. The IEA says the closure has caused the largest supply disruption ever recorded, over 10 million barrels of oil every day. Here's the actually interesting part. The IRGC didn't just push back quietly. Tasnim News, the IRGC's mouthpiece, publicly accused the foreign minister of creating anxiety among Iranians and said the foreign ministry needs to be controlled. Iran's parliamentary speaker piled on too, warning the strait won't stay open if the U.S. blockade continues. What you're watching now is a regime fighting with itself, out in the open. That doesn't happen by accident. Whether it's a power play by the IRGC to reassert control over negotiations, or a genuine crack in the facade, this makes Iran significantly harder to deal with either way. So, Iran spoke with one voice and the strait is open. But Iran's own institutions can't agree, and the waterway's status is still very much up in the air. Iran has claimed that they've begun building back their missile launchers better than before the war even began. But no credible news outlet has been able to verify the footage they shared. Over the weekend, a video began circulating showing the commander of Iran's IRGC airspace force touring what appeared to be an underground facility, with drones, missile launchers, the whole visual package. The commander claimed Iran is restocking its weapons at a faster rate than before the conflict with the US and Israel. He also claimed the enemy has been unable to replenish its own ammunition during the ceasefire. Pretty bold claims. But what do we actually know? No credible media outlet has been able to verify the legitimacy of this footage. Full stop. An edited propaganda video posted on social media by the same military apparatus that just lost its Navy chief in U.S.-Israeli strikes is not exactly a neutral source. Neither the U.S. nor Israel has officially responded to the claims. What we do know, separately, is that Israel's security establishment had already identified Iranian missile launchers pointed at Israel. That was the actual leverage that reportedly pushed Trump to pursue the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire deal, according to an N12 report. So Iran's "We're so back" video right now is not surprising. Its messaging is aimed at its own population, at negotiators in Pakistan, and at anyone watching. But whether it reflects reality is a completely different question. And right now, the honest answer is, we don't know. Trump posted that Israel is prohibited from striking Lebanon. Netanyahu was reportedly stunned. Here's what the ceasefire actually says. When Trump posted on Truth Social that Israel is prohibited from bombing Lebanon, a lot of people read that as the U.S. pulling the leash on its closest Middle East ally. And that framing is what really took off. So let's look at what we actually know. According to Axios, Netanyahu was personally stunned and alarmed by Trump's post. Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Yechiel Leiter, began urgently investigating what had changed and when. Israeli officials stressed that Trump's language appeared to directly contradict the ceasefire agreement, because the agreement explicitly preserves Israel's right to take military action in self-defense against planned, imminent, or ongoing attacks. Because of this, a U.S. official clarified the ceasefire terms to Axios, explaining that Trump himself then said separately that he wants Israel to stop striking Lebanon. "I'm not going to allow it," he said. So, which is it? An order, a preference, or just a miscommunication? The honest answer is all three, depending on who you ask. The language implied a direct presidential command, something that would have been unimaginable under previous administrations. Israel is operating under a ceasefire it agreed to at Trump's request, while simultaneously trying to figure out what exactly Trump meant. So, was this a clean, coordinated US-Israel message? Israel's own officials were caught off guard, and the two sides are still working out what the words on the page actually mean in practice. So, we have 3 stories and 3 messy realities. That's the week. If there's one takeaway, the next time you see a clean, confident headline about what Iran said, what Trump ordered, or what's happening in the Middle East right now, scratch the surface. It's almost never as simple as it looks. I'm Shir Perets. See you next week.